Ethan, a young man seeking solitude and a fresh start, moved into an old, sprawling house on the outskirts of town, a place whispered about in local lore but largely ignored. The house stood on a windswept hill, its silhouette a jagged tear against the often gray sky, its windows like vacant eyes. From the moment he stepped across the threshold, a profound unease settled in his bones, a feeling as tangible as the chill that clung to the air within the decaying walls. The silence in the house was not peaceful. It was heavy, expectant, as if the structure itself was holding its breath. He tried to dismiss the feeling as a natural reaction to the isolation and the building's age, but the sensation persisted, a low hum of dread that followed him from room to room. Days turned into a week, and the initial unease began to curdle into a specific, gnawing anxiety. It was then that he first noticed it, a strange, jagged crack in the plaster of his bedroom wall, a fissure that seemed to defy the natural settling of an old home. It wasn't just a simple line. It was a complex web of fractures, converging near the center in a way that looked almost deliberate, like a shattered spiderweb. The crack became an obsession. Ethan found his gaze drawn to it constantly, whether he was reading a book, trying to sleep, or simply passing through the room. It seemed to pulse with a subtle energy, a focal point for all the strangeness he felt within the house. He measured it, photographed it, and traced its edges with his finger, trying to understand its origin. One evening, as twilight bled through the grimy windows and cast long, dancing shadows across the room, he felt a particularly strong pull towards the wall. The house was deathly quiet, the only sound the frantic thumping of his own heart. As he drew closer, his breath catching in his throat, he saw something that made the blood freeze in his veins. Through the deepest part of the crack, where the plaster had crumbled away to reveal the dark void within, a large eye was staring directly at him. It was not a human eye. It was ancient, veined with red, its iris a swirling vortex of amber and black. It was undeniably alive, and it was watching him with an unnervating, intelligent focus. For a long moment, Ethan was paralyzed by a primal fear, his mind refusing to process what his eyes were seeing. An eye in the wall. It was impossible, a hallucination born of stress and isolation. He squeezed his eyes shut and opened them again, but it was still there, unblinking, its gaze boring into him. A morbid curiosity began to war with his terror. Who was watching him? What was it? Was it a prisoner or a guardian? Driven by an impulse he couldn't explain or control, he slowly extended a trembling hand towards the wall. His fingers brushed against the cold, rough plaster surrounding the crack. The instant he made contact, the eye shifted its focus, its pupil dilating rapidly. A strange, ethereal light, a sickly phosphorescent green, began to emanate from the crack, bathing his hand and face in its eerie glow. The light was not just a visual phenomenon. It was mesmerizing, pulling at his consciousness like a powerful undertow, silencing the panicked screams in his mind and replacing them with a hypnotic calm. He felt his will dissolving, his body becoming weightless, the world around Ethan fractured. The familiar shapes of his bedroom dissolved into a kaleidoscope of screaming colors and fractured light. He felt a violent, irresistible pull, as if a giant hand had reached through the wall and seized him by the soul. He was yanked forward, his physical form seeming to stretch and contort as he was drawn through the impossibly small crack. The sensation was one of immense pressure and nauseating disorientation, a journey through a space that was not a space. He landed not on his feet, but in a state of suspension, floating in a vast, inky blackness that stretched into infinity. The silence was absolute, a crushing void that was more terrifying than any sound. As his vision adjusted to the oppressive darkness, he realized he was not alone. All around him, suspended in the same void, were countless other eyes. They were everywhere, a celestial sphere of silent observers, each one filled with a unique expression of agony, despair, and eternal imprisonment. He saw the eyes of men, women, and children, all trapped, all watching. These were the souls of those who had come before him, the previous residents of the house, all ensnared by the same curse. He was the newest addition to their silent, horrified audience. He had not discovered a secret. He had become part of it. He finally understood the suffocating weight of the house's presence. It was the collective despair of these trapped souls. He was now one of them, another pair of eyes in the darkness, another soul to power the curse, and he knew with chilling certainty that there was no escape. With a gut-wrenching lurch, Ethan snapped back into his own body. He was on the floor of his bedroom, gasping for air, his limbs trembling uncontrollably. Sunlight, harsh and unforgiving, streamed through the window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. For a fleeting moment, he clung to the hope that it had all been a nightmare, a vivid, stress-induced hallucination. He scrambled to his feet, his heart hammering against his ribs, and turned to face the wall. The crack was still there, a jagged wound in the plaster, and through it, the eye was still watching him, its ancient gaze as steady and unblinking as ever. It had not been a dream. The house had shown him his fate. It had tasted his fear and added him to its collection. Ethan now understood the chilling truth. The house was a predator, and it would never let go of those who disturbed the restless souls of its past. The story is steeped in a pervasive sense of inescapable mystery and existential horror, focusing on the chilling and absolute idea that some curses are eternal, and some secrets are not merely dangerous to uncover, they are fatal.